Well, I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited about this, and a little bit about how this is going to work. The first part of what we will do, I will be sharing some information and providing some opportunities to ask some questions and to engage in a little bit of a conversation. And then the second half of what we will do will be an interactive, really quick maker project. So together we will actually make something that focuses on divergent thinking. So I want us to think about how we can improve or boost divergent thinking in virtual learning. And to do so, I want us to think for a moment about what our big goals are for students in the future. What really matters to them long term? What do we want them to have as they get older? So to do so, I want to share, for years, this is the formula that we have learned as children. You work really hard at school, you follow the rules, you do what the teacher asks you to do, and as a result, you can go to a university, you graduate from a particular college in the university, and then that leads you to climbing the corporate ladder. And the corporate ladder, you start out at a low level, and then you move up to a higher and higher and higher level job. And that's the formula that we in the US learned. That's the formula that I know many people in Brazil have learned. That's the formula throughout the world. In the globalized world, many of us learned this formula. My dad grew up very poor, and by working hard and following the rules and doing whatever he could at school, he was able to get into a university. He was able to get in for free to get a scholarship. And then he worked in the same job for 35 years. And he went from a low-level salesperson up into a really high position in the company. However, we also know that this formula doesn't work anymore. If you are on the chat, feel free to mention some of the changes that you've seen in the last 10 to 20 years. So some of the things that I think about is we have, globalization. We have virtual communication, like what's happening here. We have automation. We have virtual reality, artificial intelligence, all of these big things that are changing and disrupting industries. We know that most students are going to change jobs anywhere from every 5 to 7 years. Most graduates from universities are going to be changing jobs every 5 to 7 years. And so the reality is, instead of thinking about this formula of working hard, graduating from university, and climbing the ladder is now a maze. So students are going to have to navigate that maze. They're going to have to think through that maze. And that's a really different way. If you think about a ladder, it's linear, it's up, it's follow this rule, do this thing, follow these steps, do exactly what you're told, be compliant, follow the rules. If you think about a maze, it's not about following the rules, it's about making your own rules. It's about rewriting the rules. It's about finding a totally different path. And so that ladder is now a maze. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of times that students at school are still being prepared for this formula, and they're being asked to climb the ladder. But the reality is, what they need is to be able to navigate that maze. So I want us to think for a moment about this. What will students need in order to navigate that maze? And I would love for you, if you have a sheet of paper out, and I know this sounds a little bit odd, but we're going to actually take 2 minutes. And what I want you to do, so for the next 2 minutes, is I want you to sketch, to draw without using any words, what you think students will need in order to navigate that maze. Now, this is a bit of a challenge, I admit, but I want you to, again, when I say go, We're going to have 2 minutes, and in the next 2 minutes, I want you to sketch out, to draw what students will need in order to navigate that maze. If you're a student yourself, what do you think you will need to navigate that maze? Because I know people are different ages, right? So what will you need to navigate that maze? Your 2 minutes begins right now. You have 1 more minute. All right. So I'm going to show you for a moment, and this what I came up with, because I did the same thing. So when I ask you to do something, I'm going to do the same thing. And while I do this, if you would be willing to, I would love for you to describe some of the things that you drew in your picture. You obviously can't show your picture in YouTube comments, but I would love for you to share that. So there's a couple of things that I put down in mine. I don't know how well you can see it, but I put down analytical thinking. They're going to have to be really good at critical thinking. Creativity was another one. I think empathy. In a globalized world where they're interconnecting with all kinds of different communities, we want them to be empathetic and to really know how to reach an audience. Divergent thinking, the ability to think both ways. To think outside the box was one of the things I think is really important. The ability to communicate and design for other people. So those were all some of the things that I think are really important as we move into that place of navigating the maze, right? And I would love to hear from our translator, because I can't see this. Has anybody chimed in the chat and shared any of the things related to what they drew?
People are saying that they cannot draw, John. They're doing, yeah, so they're having a hard time. I drew some little things here that I could describe for you.
Yes, yeah, please.
And I put a heart, like a big heart, basically because I cannot draw to save my life as well. But that's something that I really believe, like your passion and what you believe in should be in the center, right? Your motive or purpose. And then I put like lots of like multi-talents. Anything we learn, like whatever we learn and know how to do, will contribute. And I put lots of people holding hands. Okay, so now I see a person in YouTube said, Roberto said that he drew something to represent creativity, emotional intelligence, collaboration.
Oh, I love that, yes.
Marcos Vinicius drew a lamp for creativity, a thought cloud for ideas, and a compass for direction.
Yeah, I love it. Very good.
Yeah.
Rodrigo draw people with holding hands, hand in hand together, and each one with a different skill.
Oh.
Oh, just like the maker team, right?
Yes, just like the maker team. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. So a couple of things that I'm thinking about right now is, the first thing is, I love that idea of people holding hands because, as a teacher and as a dad, I kind of like the formula better. I kind of like something predictable. And it's honestly a little bit scary for me to think about my kids navigating the maze, right? I get nervous about that because I think, the maze is so uncertain and that makes it scary, right? However, like the point of the people holding hands, you're not navigating the maze on your own. With a ladder, only one person can fit in each rung in the ladder, but with the maze, anybody can navigate the maze at the same time. And the ability to help and work together and collaborate allows you to navigate that maze even better. You don't have to compete against everyone in the maze. You're all trying to work together. And I think that's a really cool idea. I love the fact that somebody brought that up. I did deliberately, and some of you might be a little frustrated with me, I did deliberately choose to have people draw on purpose. And that's because I knew that when we are drawing, there's a couple of things. Number one, you remember things more when you draw them, right? So there's a lot of research showing that when you make thinking visible, you remember it and it sticks. The second reason is I wanted to encourage people to take a creative risk, because that's one thing I didn't include on my paper that I should have, is creative risk taking. We want students to take creative risks, and it can feel scary to do something like drawing, but the reality is we can all draw. And you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be beautiful at drawing. If you notice, in 2 minutes, nobody can draw something that good, because mine's not very good. But it's a chance to take a creative risk. And creative risk taking is one of the things that we want students to do, and to iterate and improve and to learn how to take those big creative risks that allow them to succeed, because that's another part of navigating the maze. The two things I hear teachers say at the university when they're becoming teachers, the pre-service teachers I work with, are I'm not an artist and I'm not good at math. And those two things are statements I used to make when I was 19, 20, 21 years old as well. But now I personally believe that everybody is an artist, and that if you don't believe that you're an artist, it's because you've been told that you're not an artist, or that you have been shamed. And everybody is a mathematician. Everybody thinks mathematically. And so I just am pointing that out as kind of a side piece, that it's important that we think about, everyone is an artist. Even if what you think you draw isn't very good, the point is that you're thinking like an artist. Everyone is a mathematician because we can think mathematically. So one of the things that students will need in order to navigate the maze is divergent thinking. Now, what is divergent thinking? Divergent thinking is the ability to think outside the box. It's the ability to generate a lot of different ideas at the same time. It's the ability to work within creative constraints. So when you're given some materials and you're not sure what to do with it, and you can only use these materials, that's divergent thinking. Where I live in the US, for example, we have a cooking show. We have a lot of cooking shows, and like one of them is Chopped, for example, and the bakers or chefs have to use these 3 ingredients, and they force them to use those ingredients. And that's divergent thinking, because being forced to use those ingredients pushes them to solve problems and to think differently about the ingredients that they have. I'm going to test this, and I don't know how well it's going to work. So I have a quick video explaining the differences between divergent and convergent thinking, but if the video process doesn't work, please let me know. Before I do that, I'm going to check the chat real quick. Okay. All right, let's see if it works. If it's echoey or anything, please let me know.
Okay, John, we don't have audio yet, maybe.
Is it not working?
Is your audio on?
Yeah, the audio was on, but if it's not working, I can skip that part.
You can try again.
I'll try again, and if it doesn't work, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, usually when you turn your volume on the computer, it goes to the Zoom presentation.
Yeah,
We have
it's not
some.
working for some reason. I'll skip it. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
All right, no worries. I have it. People can, if they're interested, I can link these later. They're all on my YouTube channel as well. So any sketch video I have is pretty easy to find via YouTube as well. So the idea, though, is that we think outside the box by repurposing the box, right? So if we think about really good divergent thinking, and I'm going to go back to this for a moment. All right. So if we think about divergent thinking, it's often repurposing the box. And if you think about children, they are natural divergent thinkers. If you hand a cardboard box to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, what are they going to do with that box? It becomes a castle, it becomes a car, it becomes a fort, it becomes all of these different things. And that's the idea of divergent thinking. It's about using the materials you have in a really different way. And in an age of algorithms and in an age of artificial intelligence, one of the things that computers cannot do that humans are really good at is divergent thinking. Divergent thinking is functional novelty. So novelty meaning, it's brand new, it's a different way of doing things, and functional means it also has to work. So great divergent thinking is something that's really different, but also really functional, it works. Now, why would divergent thinking matter for students as they grow older? So again, in the YouTube chat, I would love for you to answer this question. Why would divergent thinking matter?
Okay, I'm writing the sentence there.
Yes.
I'm not a big translator, so let me go back to my mother tongue. Okay, I think it's good. Yeah, posting the question, 15 seconds
Fine.
delay. Let's see what our people say. We have people also here with us, yes, in Zoom. So they might answer in English.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so let's wait a little bit. Let's see. Send your questions to the universe. Okay, we have an answer ready. It says, divergent thinking means to be able to solve all kinds of problems, and that's why it matters.
Yes.
Or maybe this was the definition to what it is, but it works.
Well, it's both. Yeah, it works. Yes.
Okay, Isabella is saying that it has always mattered, right?
Yeah. Rodrigo is saying that he believes that in order to look at the problems in a different way, you need to think in a divergent way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you need it in order to try to see things in a different way. Yeah. Yes.
Because the world is in a fast transformation process, and there's no right answers for everything.
Okay, we have
absolutely.
We have some answers from YouTube too in Portuguese. Let me put my translation skills to proof. So that people think about different solutions for common problems, everyday problems, Ivan is saying. Okay, I think Soraya has translated Rodrigo's one, right? Denise is saying,
one.
Oh, okay. So Denise is saying, because if we want to create something new, novelty, we need to think divergently, right? Christiane is saying to amplify possibilities. And somebody's complimenting me on my translation skills. Okay, I'm making friends. Good. I'm good.
Very good. Muito
All right.
bem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember a little bit of Portuguese. All right.
Okay. We have one more person saying that he believes that that each person has his own experiences and they are unique.
Mm-hmm.
And this can bring a fresh view, you know, when we need different ideas to come up with solutions, right?
Arthur Feitosa says that the divergent thinking frees you in order to you open up to new possibilities, new solutions.
Yeah. Monique is saying that's what, so that we have different solutions. Yeah, and when we make things, I think, I don't know if we can ask questions, but yeah, I'm like I think I know what it is, divergent thinking, and I like to think that I could do that, you know, but I don't know, like in our everyday interactions, you know, maybe we fall into the trap of just behaving in some certain ways and not letting this divergent thinking really, you know, take over our group work, for instance. And I'd like to know what you think of that.
Yeah, so are you thinking, you know, what does it look like in our everyday life? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Marcos Arcanjo is saying that the divergent thinking conducts not only to results, but also and mainly to transformation, not conducts only to external results, but also and mainly to internal transformation that transmutates us into divergent beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very poetic.
So I think that,
yes, it is. Way to go, Marcos.
Awesome.
Very poetic. So, you know, I'll give a couple of examples of divergent thinking, you know, from throughout the world, or I mean, I guess just kind of small things that have made a big difference. So sometimes divergent thinking is looking at a problem and realizing that the solution is inside the problem. So I'm going to give an example from the United States. I realized that most Brazilians are soccer fans, right? It's all about you know, soccer. But in the U.S., you know, one of the sports that's really big is baseball. And there was a baseball team, and they wanted to build a stadium inside the city. However, it was a weird shaped plot of land, and there was a giant old factory. And so they said, you know, how do we solve this problem? There's a giant factory, the land is odd, and thinking divergently, they said, well, what if we convert the giant factory, old factory that hasn't been used for 40 years, what if we convert that into shops and hotels and artist lofts, and then that becomes part of the outfield in the stadium? And then what if we have strange field dimensions? And so they actually ended up designing this beautiful stadium that's really different. And that would be thinking divergently. That's a kind of a design example. Another small example is when I was a kid, luggage didn't have wheels. I don't know why there was no wheels on luggage, but you could never find wheels on luggage. And it's because everyone thought of wheels as being necessary for you know, cars and bicycles, and that was kind of it, skateboards maybe. And then somebody realized, wait, we can put wheels on luggage. And then they started putting wheels on trash cans. Again, when I was a kid, we'd have to lug the big old trash can and pick it up and hold it and carry it over. And now trash cans have wheels, big wheels on there, right? And that's divergent thinking, because it's saying, well, what if we took this thing from here and apply it to something totally different over here? And so that would be divergent thinking. I'll give another small example from schools. In the U.S., we have areas where the internet is really bad, right? And they're small towns, and students don't have access to the internet. And when we had the pandemic happen, suddenly teachers had to deliver instruction from home. Schools were closed, but students had no internet at home. So the district said, how do we fix this? How do we solve this problem? And one of their solutions is they realized that they could take school buses and park them strategically around these different areas in small towns and create essentially big Wi-Fi hotspots so that anybody in those neighborhoods could have access to the internet. Well, that's thinking divergently, because you're looking at the problem, you're looking at the constraint, and you're saying, well, what if we use a school bus for something totally different? What if we use the school bus for internet and allow people to have Wi-Fi? And so that would be an example, again, of how we can think divergently. And I think we know that we want our students to be divergent thinkers as well. So why does this matter? We want them to have a hacker mindset, right? We want them to think about, how do I fix it? How do I do it in a different way? How do I solve problems in unusual ways? How do I look at those constraints and then create something entirely new? Now, the interesting thing is this: divergent thinking is really valuable for the future, because to be innovators in their jobs, to navigate the maze, kids will need to be divergent thinkers. So we know this. And yet, when they tested students on divergent thinking, they found that divergent thinking goes down the older you get. And an example of this would be one of the tests for divergent thinking is that they give students 2 items, and you have to create as many uses for the 2 items as you can. When they had students who were 7 and 8 years old, they came up with 30 or 40 different things in a matter of minutes. But when they did the same thing for graduate students at university, they were only getting about 4 or 5 things. They similarly had one where you look at a picture and the picture is abstract. It doesn't look like any one thing. It's a little bit like ink blot tests or something like that. And so they looked at these pictures, and the students who were in kindergarten averaged about 40. The students who were in high school averaged about 7. So the big question that I have, and I would love for you again to answer this in the chat, is why does divergent thinking decrease or go down as children get older? What are those factors? So I'm just looking at this right now because the chat, I love this. A rigid educational system, right? Unfortunately, students are forced to follow patterns that block creativity as they grow older. Yes, definitely. Tests and evaluations. We tend to reward students for getting the right answer and getting it fast. And divergent thinking is often about questioning the answers rather than answering the questions.
Denise is saying that is because I can keep track of the comments, sorry, because school
Oh, it's
education
okay.
produces convergent thinkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rodrigo is saying that he believes it has to do with the way we are educated. Maybe he's referring to school, but also at home, right?
Yes.
Evelina is saying that we tend to start judging, to be a little bit more judgmental, and judge the ideas, right? And what we say, how we behave. Marcos Arcanjo is pointing out that the main factor of this decrease would be the methodologies that schools use.
Yeah.
That
And
kind of
Rodrigo, yeah.
kill creativity, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
what he's calling in schools masmorra, which is like big
Dungeons,
like
dungeons. School
Oh, okay.
dungeons. And
thing.
Rodrigo is saying that we are taught to find answers that somebody else is already find them.
Mm.
Marcos Vinicius is saying here it's because of the belief that there is only one answer to questions, right? So you need to get the right
Yes.
answer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Paula is saying that we tend to think there is only one answer. Oops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So everybody's
So we
blaming
definitely.
school, John. We are blaming school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, another one,
So we
Artu is
see.
saying because it's the school too, right? There is no creativity. It doesn't foster creativity.
And Flavia saying that we have to perform more and more in society as we grow old.
Like in terms of responsibility, right? Sorry, we have more responsibilities.
I guess in terms of responsibilities and in terms of following some kind of social model, you know? Isabella is saying in the
Yes.
comments, washback effect of traditional assessment and testing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So, you know, one of the things that I
Lots
thought
of
about with the
thoughts.
assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of thoughts. So, you know, it's interesting that with testing, one of the things that we see is, you know, with multiple choice tests, for example, you know, a multiple choice test doesn't allow for any divergent thinking, right? You don't get to generate new answers. You don't get to come up with your own options. You have to select from options. And a multiple choice test doesn't tell you what students know. It only tells you what they don't know, right? So if someone is doing a multiple choice test, it can tell you what they got wrong and therefore what they don't know, but there could be a lot of information that they know that we don't ever assess. And so divergent thinking is often about pulling things from all these different connected areas and combining them and mashing them up. And that's what we want students to do. So, you know, divergent thinking is really about this idea of innovation. You ask yourself the question, am I sure that this will work? And if the answer is yes, then you get the same thing as before. You get the status quo, right? But if you're not sure something will work, then you get innovation. And innovation requires courage. It requires the ability to take risks. And just like people didn't want to draw a picture, same kind of idea. That's courage in a small way to take a risk. And divergent thinking requires courage. Part of it is learning how to fail forward. Failing forward is this idea. It's that you're saying that failure is permanent, but failing is temporary. So you look at something and you try it, and if it doesn't work, you try something different. And if it doesn't work, you try something different. And if it doesn't work, you try something different. So divergent thinking is all about building on those iterations and improving until you have something that does work. So there's a lot of different types of divergent thinking in terms of how we assess students on divergent thinking. One of them is the abstract picture. Another one is with language. So a small example, and this might be confusing for Portuguese to try to translate this, but I'll just give an example in the US and in English. They have something where it's a challenge where by changing one letter in a word, it changes the meaning of a word. So the Chicago Cubs, you change a C to a P and it becomes the Chicago Pubs. And you see how many times you can change a letter to change the meaning of a word. And that would be an example of divergent thinking. Another one is where you have to create two-word, you have to rename animals by creating two-word definitions for the animals. So a snake, for example, becomes a danger rope. So it kind of looks like a rope. It's dangerous. It's a danger rope. I have a greyhound in the background, a dog, and she would be a speed noodle. Or I have a Great Dane, and I would call it a horse dog, right? Because she's the size of a horse. And that's a small example of divergent thinking. But the most common example is doing divergent thinking maker projects. And that's what we're going to do together. So a divergent thinking maker project, what I love about it is it's a reminder for me that if you do a virtual class meeting, you can do a distance learning maker divergent thinking maker project, and it doesn't have to be in front of a screen. So students get to move around, they get to be hands-on, they get to find things, and they get to do that. So we're going to do one together. And this is the very first part is I'm going to give you a time amount for each part that we do. So the very first thing I want you to do is you have to find 4 different things. You have to find something flat, find something round, find something sticky, and then you have to find a cup or a glass. Okay? Something flat, something round, something sticky. That could be like a piece of tape or something like that, and a cup or a glass. And so I'm going to give you 3 minutes right now in your environment, at your house or wherever you are, to see if you can find those 4 items. And I'll wait for our translator to tell me when to press go, because I know there's a delay on translation, and that's okay. And when we press go, I will press the start button and we will begin this first part.
So John, we need a glass, a cup, something sticky, and something flat, right?
Yeah, well, we need something flat, something round, something sticky, and then a cup or a glass.
Okay, okay.
I put it in the comments at the YouTube in Portuguese.
Perfect.
So,
thank you. I
3
just
minutes,
saw
guys.
afterwards. Yes. So I will start the 3 minutes right now. Ready?
All right.
3 minutes to find your item. I'm going to do the same thing. Flat, round, sticky glass, or cup. Something round. Flat, round, sticky, glass cup, flat.
Something flat, something a cup.
Flat, round, sticky, and then glass or a cup.
Okay, I got everything. I have everything here.
Do you?
I missed the sticky one.
I know. I'm looking. I'm looking myself. I'm trying to find.
I got some honey.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I got it. I'm ready.
Danny is saying that he has only one item that is everything. Is that tape?
That covers everything?
Yeah, it does. It's that thing that we do for electricity to this black tape that we use in the makerspace. What is it called?
Electrical tape.
Insulation tape.
Insulation tape. Yes. It's sticky, it's flat, it's round, and that's it.
Yes. Eco is asking John if sticky goes for person that are clingy and sticky.
No. Maybe.
Maybe.
I guess we could allow that. We could allow that. All right. Okay, time is up. And so now you're going to have 30 seconds. And then in 30 seconds, you will choose one item of your own away from these things. So, for example, I'll just go back to this to show you what I have. I don't know if anybody can see this. I'll stop the share to show you. So I have my flat thing is a book. My round thing is a ball because I have a dog who loves to chase ball. My sticky thing is tape. And I have a mug that I will use. So those I have those items right now.
Looks like everybody's ready in the comments.
All right,
I
perfect.
have a book
so now
also.
We're going. Awesome.
I have a tape, a glass cup, and a cap for a round object.
Oh, awesome. And then you're gonna choose one item of your own. So for me, my item is going to be a pencil. All right, and you'll have 30 seconds to find your new item that you're adding.
Mine is a measuring tape.
I got
I like it.
I like it too.
For everything. Scotch tape, so I hope I'm safe. or not.
All right. So now what you're going to do is with these items that you have right here, I want you to brainstorm a list of things you could create using these items. And what I'm going to ask you to do in coming up with ideas of what you could create, I want you to come up with as many ideas as you can. There are no wrong answers. So you want to avoid saying, oh, this is a bad one, I'm not going to write it down, or it's a bad one, I'm not going to write it down. Your goal is on a sheet of paper or on your computer, on your phone, wherever, just jot down as many ideas as you can for what you could make with these items. So I'm going to give us 4 minutes. It's a pretty long time to come up with things you could create with those items. All right? And as you're finishing up that brainstorm, I'm pointing out that the goal of this brainstorm is to get you to think differently about how you use the items. So for example, I have a tennis ball, and my natural tendency is to treat the tennis ball as something I throw and something that you bounce, and I think about it as playing, tennis. However, if I have, this, and I add the tennis ball, and I'm pushing it here. Let me stop the share so people can see it pretty easily. So if I'm using the tennis ball, suddenly the tennis ball becomes a way for me to move across objects. And so it becomes, oh man, I could be building some kind of crazy robot that goes like this and it moves around. And then I put something on top and it becomes, a movable coaster, or it becomes, some kind of bizarre contraption. And it changes the way you think about that particular item that you have. If you have a sheet of paper as your item that's flat, well, a sheet of paper is totally different when you bend it and when you change it and you create origami and things like that. And so the goal is to spend a little bit of time there thinking about different ways that you would use that object, and then narrowing it down and creating something different. So this next part is going to be very hands-on. You're going to be away from the screen. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to spend 20 minutes doing this next part. And it is to build a toy or a game. So a children's toy or a game that uses at least 3 of the items that you have with you. Now you can use every item, but you could also choose to not use a couple of items now, okay? So for example, if I'm looking at it, I'm saying, I'm really interested in this idea of sliding something across a table using the ball and this part of the tape, but I can also take the tape off and make it something sticky. I could make some kind of a dart game that you throw. So I'm going to think through all these different ways that you can create games using the items that you have, right? So it could be a toy or a game that people would actually want to play with. All right, your 20 minutes begins right now.
Woohoo, that's good. People on YouTube are saying they're curious to see what they're making, what the others are making. Me too.
Yeah, yes,
curious.
yes.
I finished mine, John.
Are you finished?
I am.
Ask around and ask if people are finished, because that would be super fast. Oh my goodness, my dog is ruining mine right now. I'm gonna.
Okay, go save it. Go save it.
I'm gonna let people see if they're finished early. I'm gonna let them see what I have created. So I'm gonna explain mine, and that'll lead to the next part. So my second dog, the puppy, she's a Great Dane, and she would be, I guess, 60 kilograms, so not small, very heavy. Oh, good dog. Oh, we love her.
Yeah.
I'm
Doesn't
so
want to
sorry.
to let daddy work.
I'm so
It's
sorry. All
decided.
right, so
It's decided. This session is over. You have to play with the dog. You have your ball.
so I have a pencil, and what
Okay.
I've done, I will show you, is I invented a game, and the way this game works is I use the pencil to put points. So I have 10, 20, 30, and 40 points.
Okay.
I drew a little line here because this is super washable, this table. And so I drew a line with a pencil to show my starting place. And then over here, I propped the book up over the cup so it holds the book up. And then the goal of this is that you have to slide the ball in the tape part, and you have to
Okay.
hit it up against this the book, and
Okay.
then you get however many points that it lands on. And so it is possible for it to land, for example, if I
You, somebody
oh
really
goodness.
liked your game, huh?
I see that
Yeah,
you're
I'll just give
very
it to
into
her.
a game.
Okay, that I'm really sorry. I should not have. She
No,
was
just
asleep when we started. Okay, well, so the idea would be that if the ball and tape goes over the table, then any number that it touched, you have to take it away. But wherever it lands, you earn those points. So it could land on like a 10 and 20, and you get 30 points. A 20 and a 30, and you get 50 points. A 30 and a 40, and you get 70 points. And then you just would compete. And then I think the rule of the game would be the first person to 200 points exactly. So like if you go over 200, you would have to, deliberately let it down and lose points and get, whatever until you can get to 200 points. And you would play it against another person and see whoever wins. So that's the way I would, create the game. And if we were doing this in a video conference with students, they could each explain their game briefly and then give each other feedback on how to improve it. So I just showed you the game. I would love to hear if people are finished early, because we got about 7 more minutes of creating it, and some of you are already finished. I would love for someone to share, what would you do with my game to make it better? So what would you do to improve it? So I kind of showed you how. And obviously, the easiest answer is you would not let the dog near it. But what else would you do?
So while people right here, because I think some people are working still, right?
That's
So I
totally
will
fine.
tell
Yeah.
you,
So this
yeah.
this
Okay.
is just for people who are finished early.
Okay, so I think would be awesome if we had this game, but just bigger, like with big things, right? So we
Yeah.
could move around like an outdoor kind of
Mm,
sport thing,
I
and have
just
the
thought the
dog.
same. And have the dog.
And the dog.
and the dog.
Get extra points, score extra points if we are faster than her.
If you
Yeah.
can untangle yourself from the dog, in order to play better. So I guess the dog gives a next step for the game,
Yeah,
a
that's what
next
Rodrigo is
stage.
saying here on the chat on YouTube. He's saying that he would use the dog, right, in the game, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
that would
That's
be the
divergent
purpose.
thinking. Yes.
Yes.
What if you use the dog as a partner for your game?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do that. I don't think she'll give up the ball though.
Okay, I see that somebody created a Padlet for us to share the project, sort of.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, I
Yes.
created a Padlet. Let's see if somebody put the project there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to put mine. Now that I saw
That's
John, I think
perfect.
mine, I mean, I need some ideas from your game to improve mine, but you know, I go with what I have right now.
Yeah, I love this idea. So let's do that. We have right now 4 more minutes to let people wrap up, but and in the end, I was planning to have people um, post a vid or create a video explaining how it works, or but I love the idea of a Padlet as the final piece because they could do they could show a picture, video, whatever, and go that route. So I love that. Let's do that. I'm gonna go to the Padlet myself right now.
Nobody's there yet, but I'm hopeful.
No, I love it. I love it. All right. So yeah, let's have people do that as a final piece.
We have a suggestion for a game that Marcos Vinicius is suggesting that he would use the tape in order to fix the cup on the border of the table to make the ball fall into the cup.
Oh, I like that. That could work really well. Yeah, I love it.
Rodrigo is telling us that maybe use the ball as something to attract the dog, get the dog's attention.
Yeah.
Larissa is giving the suggestion that maybe we could use the Scotch tape to make a labyrinth between two walls.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I like that idea.
Yeah, me too.
I think people on YouTube are kind of finished. I hope they do put their work, their project on the Padlet. I put mine.
Please do, please do. I want to see them all.
Yes, people in Zoom, I don't know if they're doing the project. If you are here in Zoom,
please share with us.
You have finished, please tell us what you're making or post on Padlet so that we can share and see what you guys created.
You can also post a picture of your lists of ideas that John invited you to write it down, and you can also post the drawing that John asked you to make in the beginning of the session.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be awesome. This is very interesting, John, while we wait here for people to finish the project. When you were doing the session, two things that I observed is that you're not afraid of silence.
Yeah.
Yes, because teachers, many times we are afraid of silence, right? So you just, you're, okay, just go get the things, do the project, to have this off-screen activity while you're doing something on screen. I think this is awesome, right? Because as a teacher, I tend to observe, right? Things like that. I think this was very interesting. And something like when I was writing my list, I tended to just write down things that already exist, you know, like things I could do, but they already exist. So in a way, I was trying to use the objects to create something that is already here, but only after 2 minutes or maybe like getting stuck is that I thought, okay, maybe I can think of something that doesn't exist yet, right? And in a simple activity like that, so much goes on in our brain, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that idea. I think two things that a lot of teachers are nervous about doing in virtual sessions and video conferences are silence and things that are hands-on, maker projects and stuff from around the house, something like this. And it is different. It is a little bit nerve-wracking. I remember the first time we did something like this was when I taught middle school, and we were supposed to have an in-person STEM camp, and then the school got flooded, and so we had to do that via the computers, and we were, it felt scary to be silent, to do 15 minutes or 20 minutes of silence and trust that stuff was still going on. It was really hard. Ooh, target's shooting. That seems interesting.
Yeah, I have another question. What would you do when you have students that are afraid and stuck with creativity? Because sometimes we have this model where students need to follow a model, a template, or an example. And I think if you want to spark creativity, we should skip this part. But how you manage students that get stuck in a process, doesn't come up with anything, and are afraid for showing that they are stuck?
Yeah, that's a very real challenge. I think some of it is to do an activity like this and to tell students, this won't be graded. This is just an activity. I want you to focus on trying new things and don't worry if it's not perfect. I think something like that can make a difference. But in some cases, you might have to do an activity where they take something that already exists and modify it the first time. So you say, maybe it's not a divergent thinking challenge like this. It's something that's a little more like a recipe, but you say, I want you to find one item from your home that you add to it that's different. And so you kind of take baby steps.
That's awesome.
So I had one last question. I'm just checking to see if more stuff has been added to the Padlet. A little bit. All right. So my last question that can be on, I guess, on YouTube, is this question right here. It's just this: what is one way you might use divergent thinking in your classroom or your environment? So what is one way that you would implement something like this?
We have an answer here from Rodrigo. Rodrigo works with us at Thomas Maker, right? So he's saying that one way would be like use different ideas, all sort of ideas to create something functional with Arduino, for instance. Yes, and then maybe I think the process of making would kind of bring us to different directions and have to do like lots of tinkering and change the project.
Yeah, I love that.
We have 4 projects in our Padlet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Let me see. Rodrigo is saying that it doesn't have to do a lot with programming and learning how to code, but it would be awesome to bring this playfulness, right? Make believe kind of a narrative behind working with something sometimes more like logical, like programming, right?
Yes, yeah,
Flavia,
absolutely.
yeah. Flavia is saying that she can only think about the idea of culture when we think about divergent thinking. Larissa is saying that to think about new functionalities for everyday objects.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, would that work, right? To think about new functionalities and then try to create new objects, you know. And I think it goes with what you said, right? Baby steps. Because we are not used to it, right? Let me see if there is another comment here.
Yeah, I think Larissa is telling something just like baby steps. I was about to mention that because she mentioning that we should start with day-to-day objects and transform them, and then you use this process to take it to the next level and think about new objects with new functionalities, you know.
Yes, yeah.
Gleison is here on Zoom with us. I think he's a language teacher, right? And he's saying that he thinks he would use divergent thinking in a language classroom when he's showing cultural aspects from a country. For example, people used to think that in British culture, they drink tea at a certain time. In divergent thinking, he could ask students to change tea time into something else.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I love that idea.
I love that. Very disruptive.
Yeah. Tinkering with a person's culture, right?
Yes. Oh, that would be. Oh, this is a great theme for a class activity. You know.
Good word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of those. I don't think the British want their tea time messed with very much.
We don't mess with.
Into their tea time.
We shouldn't mess with the tea time. The same goes to the Brazilian about the coffee time, you know. Don't mess with the Brazilian coffee.
Oh, Brazilian coffee is so good.
Yeah.
So good. I miss the coffee when I was there. The coffee and just all of the fruit that was available in Brazil that we just didn't have in the US.
We have a cornucopia of fruits and colorful. Yes. We are very blessed that way.
You guys are going to be happy to hear that now that we are almost finishing, right? Our time is almost up, or a little bit up. We have some projects on Padlet that we could share, John, if you want to open and...
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. You did a great job.
Oh, I love it. I'm seeing it right now.
I love it.
Very cool. How to play. Ooh, I like it. I'm going to check these out. All right, so I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. And was there any final thoughts or questions that you wanted to do before we go?
Let's see if we have questions here.
Se alguém tiver alguma pergunta para o John, pode fazer aí nos comentários, que aí a gente já está finalizando nossa sessão. A gente agradece a presença de todo mundo, convida vocês também para as outras sessões do programa do FuturED, que vão até novembro. Amanhã mesmo nós temos outra com o Nico Chen. Ele é um pesquisador do Agency by Design da Universidade de Harvard. No momento ele tirou licença para fazer o seu doutorado na Universidade de Nova York, mas dentro exatamente dessa área de aprendizagem criativa, aprendizagem baseada no fazer para ensino de língua. Olha que interessante para os professores de inglês aí. E ele vai estar conosco amanhã falando exatamente sobre isso, sobre o aprendizado baseado no fazer em ambientes multilinguísticos. Is that correct, sister? Então, não percam a sessão de amanhã. A sessão de amanhã é 1 horinha mais tarde do que a sessão do John foi hoje. Então, amanhã é às 7 horas. Em setembro, nós vamos ter um curso online incrível com o nosso parceiro do Educamídia, que é sobre ensino de educação midiática dentro dos contextos de biblioteca. Então, é para bibliotecários e estudantes de biblioteconomia. Quem não se inscreveu, precisa se inscrever. A gente vai colocar o link aqui da página. E vamos ver se a gente tem aqui mais algumas perguntas. Rodrigo wants to thank John for joining us today, because we are a huge fan of his work, his videos, and he thought the session was great. Lots of food for thought, he mentioned.
Oh, thank you.
John, thank you very much. It was very interesting to see your work and you perform your magic, right?
Thank you.
Lucas put our, to have some hands-on activity during like this remote teaching, and I'm sure you inspired some educators to pursue and try to keep active and thinking differently, yes? About the future of education. Thank you so much for being here with us, and I hope we meet again soon.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. We learned a lot more with you today. Thank you for joining us today, and it was very inspiring.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, and send your dog our love.
I will.
And post some videos of you playing with her and your kids in the back. You're gonna love
goodness. There she is.
Cute.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.